So what they actually asked us to do is from the question. Let's take a look at the question. So it says your company just employed an AWS security specialist that will be managing the permission. That will be managing the permission and access of the user in your AWS account. So as the AWS administrator, now you're administrator, you have the administrative access, just like this the account I'm going to use. You will need to create a user for this security specialist, following the principle of least privilege. We talk about least privilege, you only give the role you want them to assume, you only give it to them. So it says you create a user with only IAM full access permission. So let me show you what list user talked about. So in the previous, so it says only give the permission required to do a job or perform an action. Okay, trust you guys can hear me. Okay. So that's what this does. Okay. Now let's go back to the AWS console. So I am the IAM home. So what I actually want to do is how to create a user. So how to add a user. And this user will only have IAM permission. So that's the only thing it's going to be able to do in this account. So the other one we call it IAM user, right? So let's still use it again. So the reason why we are using it because we have already deleted the previous one. So we can give it access or programmatic access. That's if you want to perform work outside the AWS console, like using the command prompts, the window PowerShell and the stuff and the rest like that. And if you want to just only the console, we use this. So for this purpose, we just use only this. So let's use an auto-generated a custom password. So this one says that we want the user to create a new password at next login. We don't want that. We don't want him. That means if the question says you want to restrict access, that you don't want them to create a new password, this is what you do. You won't give them access to create a new password or change their password. So you click on next, that's under permission. So if you're having a group, you can create a group for them, whereby you give them maybe IAM full access, administrator access, whatever it is. Maybe you already assigned a group. Maybe let's say in the workplace now, you're having like 50 workers, 50 employees. So you only want those at the top to have a particular permission, like administrator access. You can give them the access like this, administrator access. You create a group, then give them the access. If you want those only, maybe you only want them to have access to the services. We call them power. I think power user also, power access. So that's their job. So that's what they do. Then okay, now this access, we have three types of access. We have the AWS managed access. Let's take a look at this. You see it now. Now you see you can copy permission from an existing user. So I have some user here with some access already. Then I have this, we attach a system policy directly. Okay, so this one are customer managed. That is, you create them yourself. Customer managed. This one are AWS created. As you can see, AWS managed. So if I assign administrator access to this, administrator access simply means it's for job function, whereby I'm giving you access to a specific resources. So let me show you a view of the permission, the access I'm giving these services. Okay, so the asterisk sign means I'm allowing all resources. That's the meaning of the asterisk sign, all resources to perform all actions. So that's why they use asterisk. Instead of you listing them one by one, you are giving them full access to all resources. Now for this, you only see the resources being specified. As you can see, these are only the resources. That's CloudFormation, stuffs, and the rest. So that's how it works. And they are AWS managed. That is, they are already created by AWS already. So they want us to give him IMI access. Okay, I was talking about a project. Is it job? Yeah, project. Let's power. We call them power. We call it power. Power user access. That's only to AWS resources. Only some, not all. So let me show you what power access does. So as you can see, it gives to the IMI the organization description, the accounts, and the rest. So it will perform these 5 functions. That's for power user access. But then we only want IMI user access. So okay, so full access. They also want to give him full access. The AWS manager, as you can see. So you don't need to start creating. They already created for you there. But in a situation whereby you want another permission, you can create yourself. They are written in JSON format, so you have to take note of that. Okay, so this is summary of everything. You are only giving it one access, and by default, IMI users have no access, so you have to assign, and that's why you're only assigning IMI full access. So you are creating the user. The reason why I'm creating it is because I have administrator access. That's why I'm creating this. So okay, so it says we are good to go. So as you can see, no access key was created for me. Okay, you don't really need to learn about JSON. JSON is just a language. We call them descriptive language. Descriptive in what sense? What you see is what you get. So you can, most of these stuff, you can actually check them in the AWS documentation. So probably if you want to give an access to something, just check the AWS documentation, then you can actually get it there. So let me log out from this account. Let me sign out. So I want to log into the other accounts.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
For the group, I just created, like you narrated, that if you want to onboard senior board members.
Yes.
As in, we can give different type of access, not necessarily IAM full access.
Yeah, different type of access, different.
Depending on what they want.
Depending on what they want. Okay. What they want to do is is the access you are going to give them. And that's why we call it least privilege. You only give them the role they want to do. So this account only have access to IAM full access. So if I click on S3, it's going to deny me access. So I can't do anything on any other resources apart from IAM. That's the only place I can do.
Because you don't give permission back.
Yes, because I did not give permission. So it says you do not have permission to list buckets. That's it. If I click on this, it's still going to deny. I do not have permission. If I click on EC2, it's going to deny access to. So let's take a look at EC2. It says API error. That is, I do not have permission. That's it. So you can see what is going on right in here.
Okay.
No permission.
Now I get.
If I want to launch an instance, I do not have permission. Let's take a look at it. It's going to deny me access. I might have feeling. Let me fill everything, and you see that it's going to return an error. So it's going to, at the end of the day, it's going to say, I do not have access. You see, no access. It's not going to load. I do not have access to it. So once you don't have access to those stuff, you can't create an EC2 instance. That's it. If I click on launch, it's going to return an error. Even if I create it, if I want to create safe, it's still going to return an error. Let's take a look at it. It says you are not authorized. So there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do in this account except the IAM. That's the only place I'm authorized. So in the IAM, I can create a rule. I can do any other thing. But apart from that place, I can't do anything. So as you can see, I can create a row. Let's create a row. If I want to create a row, let's call it anything. Okay, I'm not searching for a row, sir. I'm creating a row. So this says which entity do you want to trust? Now I talked about something that time. I talked about trust and permission, or trust and execution. Those two, you have to take note of them. So we want to trust AWS service, see an AWS account, see a web entity identity, see a federation, see a custom trust policy, stuff like that. So and vice versa. We have other services apart from those ones, so you can trust them. Next. Then I guess it's done. Let's search for it. No. Okay, it says I should add a permission. So which permission do I want to give it? S3. Let me give it S3. Okay, we have 10 minutes. So what I just did now is that I want to create a row. So it's going to ask me a row name. So it's already creating the row here. The only situation whereby it can return an error is if it's trying to access other resources too. If it's not just only IMI row, it's going to like decline it. But this situation is only accessing the resources, so the role is done. So let's give it. So this is it, as you can see. So you say you need permissions to view the remaining aspect of it, but you can create the row. So that's it. So let's delete it. Although it's free, they are free. As I said, it comes at no cost. Capital letter I. I start deleting I. I don't have permission to delete. It seems like I don't have permission to delete. But that's how you go about it. Now, let me log in back to, let me sign out and log in. So basically, I've just answered the practical aspects, the question they give us. The practical, that's how you go about the practical aspect of it. Okay, I'm in back again. So I'm going to delete the role and user created. So then let's delete the user. The user is IAM user. So that's done. So Now, the maximum limit of group, the maximum limit, you can have a maximum limit of 10 groups per user. That means a user can only be added to a maximum of 10 groups. And the maximum limit of 5,000 users per AWS account. So the maximum user you can create is 5,000. So this limit can be overcome by using the identity federation. So you need to take note of that.
Come again. Yeah. For that group and users, it's not clear. You said maximum limit of 10 group
per
user can be added to, as in
yes,
single user can only belong to 10 groups.
Yes, can only belong to 10
then
groups.
How many groups can someone create?
That's unlimited.
You can create unlimited, but single user can only be added to 10.
10 groups, yes. That's the maximum limit. And you can create
a maximum limit of
5,000 users per AWS account. So the maximum number of users, let's take for example, when you talk about user, this is my training user. So this is a user. And we're having Amuda, he's also a user. We're having this guy, he's also a user.
Okay, that means for Jamai training can create 5,000.
No. Altogether, any user we create, as you say, this place now we already have 13 users.
And that's what I'm saying.
Now we can only have maximum of 5,000 here.
And that's what I'm saying, that
yes,
for Jamai training
user can also
the max it can create is 5,000.
Not the max, the whole account itself. Muatu is also a user. The same way.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That it can only create 5,000 users.
Yes, like I don't. Let me try to explain this well. What I'm saying is that this one is 13 now. If the my training user want to create, he can create that's 4,009 something. He can create 5,000 again because 13 users already existed. Yes, because 13 users already existed already. So that's what they were saying there. But then why do you need to create 5,000 users? So the lab 2 was saying create 3 groups, admin group with full access to AWS services, finance group with full billing access. Okay, so it says depending on the organization, yeah. So what we actually want to do here is we want to create 3 groups, three groups. The admin group with full access to AWS services, the finance group with full billing access, and AD group with only IAM full access. Create 3 users to each group and ensure that these users only have inherited permission from the group. Enable MFA for all the users in the group. So MFA, there's one thing about MFA is that you can't force it on someone. You can't force it on a user. The fact that I'm a user now does not mean you can compulsory that I should create MFA before I can use the account. Let's take for example, this account now, as you can see, say that I should add MFA to myself. It's not a must. I can decide to add, I can decide not to add. But the company can come and tell you, add all the stuff like that is necessary. Anybody that does not add stuff like that. But AWS does not force it on you. They do not enforce it on you. It's your choice. And the root user cannot say anytime you are creating an account, enforce, no, you can't. It's their choice. So you need to take note of that too. Then, so what they actually want us to do there is, I think we have 2 minutes left. Then we have to join again. So what they actually want us to do is, they want us to create 3 groups. So come to the user group and 3 users. I think this was done a year ago. So you create AD group. Let's take a look at AD group. So it has permission. That's IAM full access permission. What they say, what they talked about AD group. Let's take a look at AD group. They said that AD group should have only IAM full access, just like what we did here. IAM full access. So I'm going to create 3 users, and the 3 users will be attached to this place. These users, they won't have any permission from the start. So if I attach them to this group, they automatically inherit this permission. That's what they are talking about. Hope you guys are getting me.
Yes. Yes.
Same thing too for this finance guy. So if I create my training user now, I add him to this group, I add him to this group, I add him to this group. Automatically, it's having 3 rows already. I hope you guys are getting out. That is, I've given him three permissions already. That's the way it works. So it's just like senior manager and junior manager, gate man, staffs, and the rest. All of them enjoy a particular benefit, but not all of them enjoy some benefits. So that's the way this group work. Then, so this homework is saying allow user creates in lab 2 to manage your own MFA while following principle of least privilege. So they want you to manage the MFA. MFA is just a multi-factor authentication. That's you can download the Google Authenticator for this. So that's what I'm going to use. But then let's overlook that. If you want to do that, you just download Google Authenticator to authenticate, or any device you want to use to authenticate. So JSON overview, an object, this is an object, anytime you open it and close, it's an object. So take note of this bracket sign. And key, we have objects, as you can see. So talk about a list of, this one is just a list. Okay, so this JSON overview, this is an object, this is a key, this object. Then examples, these are just lists. You want to list basically. Then this is an example of a JSON document. So we have version, that's the date the policy was created. That's the version. So 2012, we have JSON. We have effect. Effect simply means from the word effect. That's what do you want him to do? Do you want him to allow or deny? It can actually does 2 things. It's either allow or deny. Let me try. Same link. So the action is I want him to perform an IAM user, but the only thing I want him to do is to list users. That's what I want him to do. So resources, this is the ARN, as I said, this is the ARN. So this is what I want him to do. To assume this role as an ARN. Then these are policy format. Just take note of the policy. All these things, you can get them from the AWS documentation. So this version, this allow, list users, and the rest. So I already explained JSON. So I think about the fact that these are the key parameters we need to know right in here. List, when you are listing, and the key pairs, things you just need to know about them. Then this is an example of a JSON format. This is just the format. This is how it looks like. This is the version, the statement, the effect, the action, and the resources. So that's all you need to know. The version is still the same thing. That's the day the policy was created. The effect, what do you want him to do? Is he allow or denied? The action, which action? The IAM, and you want him to list users in the IAM only. So that's what you want to tell him to do. Then the resources, that's the ARN and stuff. The ARN, yeah, asking him to like assume this resource for this user. So that's what this is doing. Now, this for JSON. Then we also have YAML, but basically for IAM, we use JSON. JSON and YAML are quite similar to each other. Only that you don't need to start putting all these bracket sign, all these ones, all this 699, all this hyphen, the apostrophe. You don't need them in YAML. They are automated. So version, as you can see, the version of the policy document. Effects, that's the effect of the action. It can either deny or allow an action. The resource, that's the ARN to allow or deny the action. Then talk about action, the action being allowed or denied. That's what it does, service API. Then statement is a statement, as you know, it contains an object or a list. So if you are listing, use this of object with keys and value pairs. So then this sign, I was talking about this sign the other time. It allows more than one character. It allows all. Once you specify this, you are allowing all. That's why I call it wildcards. And this one is only represents a single character. You're only allowing just one character. That's what it does. So this taking of this one, it allows all. So maybe you just see something and they just say IAM asterisk. That means they are giving him the whole permission. If I say S3 full access, that means if I just come here and I say S3 dash dash slash asterisk, it simply means I'm giving him full access to all S3. So look at this now. It simply means I'm giving him full access to the, yes, asterisk means all. Yeah, that's what asterisk does. All. You assign it all access. So this one I'm giving him all access to the IAM because these resources, IAM. So assume I put the asterisk here to all AWS resources. That's what it does. Instead of this IAM, assume I put asterisk all AWS resources. But the asterisk is here simply means what? All IAM resources. So that's what this does. And variables. So the variable, okay, this one you can actually, this one just this with okay. Or maybe you want to input a variable name. Actually, you run this one anytime maybe I run a code. That's what you use it for. Then you can actually check it out on this link. If you check it out, this is the AWS documentation, you will see more about how you used all these stuffs. Then how IAM evaluate policy. So how it evaluates policy simply means anytime you deny a statement, maybe you specify two statements now, and you say you should allow at a particular point, you also tell him to deny that resource at a particular point. So what it's going to do is it's going to deny everything. We call it explicit deny. So that's what it does. It deny everything. So explicit denied override explicit allow. So if you are allowing something and you are telling him to deny again, it denies automatically. So let me just say it's telling that, how should I put it? It's telling that it's like you're not yet sure of what you want to do. So deny. Once you are sure, come back and tell us that, okay, oh yeah, this is what you want to do. So that's what this does. Then IAM condition, maybe you want to specify a condition that after also thing is being done, that's when you use condition. So condition element or key is used to specify condition when a policy is in effect. Maybe you want this policy to be running every 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. You specify the condition. That's what condition does. The condition operator is used to restrict access based on comparing a key to a value. So condition starts with the condition, as you all know, condition, of course, key, containing a condition operator key and an object value that contains the compared key value. So this is just how it looks like. You hardly use condition though, except they really want to specify, or probably you need to use it. So this one now is the user will be able to allow this if IAM multi-factor authentication is false. So that's conditional. So it's a bool if exists AWS multi-factor authentication present false. So if it's present, you might not be able to access this row. So we can check more on it on the IAM documentation. You see everything has been listed in the documentation. So I said the other time that we have 3 types of policy. The AWS managed policy, we saw it the other time, the one with the folder, let me show you, and the managed policy. So all these ones are customer managed. Can you see the sign, the positive sign inside the bracket? So let me type admin. See them now. You see all these ones with the logo, the AWS managed with this orange. They are all AWS managed policy. The inline policy are the one you created. Maybe a policy you created for yourself. Let me check whether I created a policy. Not sure. Not sure whether I created any policy. But then you can create a policy. You also create policy. So if you want to create a policy yourself, then we call it inline policy. So this JSON, maybe you want him to assume a room. You just come here, type in everything here, the effect, the allow, and stuff like that, the condition. You put it right in here, you save, then you attach. That's inline policy. how you create an inline policy. You can also use visual editor. You can choose the service that you want to like use. Maybe you want to create a policy, but whatsoever policy you want to create has been managed by AWS. So you can actually just go directly to the AWS managed policy and you get them there. So let's say, for example, it's 2 instance. So what I want him to do is list only, is read only, write. So when that lists, so that's it. Then, instead of you writing the JSON format, you can just use visual editor. That's what I'm doing now. So, say I choose a resource. So let me click on list. Yeah, so it basically writes the code for us. Yes, so that's what it does. So instead of me writing everything one by one, it writes the code for me. So as you can see how plenty the code is. Okay, so it actually does this for you. So you can use Visual Editor. Then you click on create. So it says for 3 warning. Okay. The policy contains an error. You are required to choose a resource. So which was doing. So you are required to choose a resource. So okay. This optional. Then what else again? The next tag. Resource. Where's resource? The policy contains an error. You are required to choose a resource. This for action. Yes. Let's close action line. No, not denying permission. So okay, this is resource. So it's requiring you to choose a resource. I thought I've been chosen already. Oh. Pick a resource. So it says at best, define permission for only specific resources in specific account. Alternatively, you can grant this privilege using condition case. So what I just did now is not does not follow the list privilege or resource, but searching for specific. That's how should I put this? You might decide not to use it when you are dealing with testing, when you are test running. So we are creating, so click on review. I think that was the policy name. And description, which is optional. Then we click on create policy. Okay, so the policy has been created. Let's take a look at test KB. Okay. So as you can see, the asterisk sign shows all resources. All resources. I was saying the other time. So the visual editor we did automatically wrote this code for us. Then what I actually wanted to show you is how the inline policy looks like. So this this customer managed. Okay, inline policy. It's the customer managed. There's a way you create inline policy though. Customer managed. That means I'm not managing the policy. Inline policy is just the policy does not really exist on AWS before. I'm creating it myself. That's inline. Now let me search it based on this. Let me search it based on inline. Spelling correct. Let me check. Yeah, it's correct. So actually, I don't think we have any inline policy present. They are all customer managed. So none present presently. Well, let me delete the one I created. Click on action, click on delete. Try to confirm that you sure you want to delete this. So that you won't come up one day and start showing them that, oh, it's a mistake that you don't know. So they are created by customer and embedded in an IAM identity. Okay. This inline policy. I know I've dealt with inline policy before. Now I am having a user. It's even a user. It's a row. You come right in here. Let's take, for example, this. That's a row already. Check. Can you see the row? Now I'm going to add permission. As you can see, create inline policy. So you click on create inline policy, then just like we are creating a policy, but this time around we are creating it from the user platform. So here's what I want him to do is just give him an anything, STS, something like this. I will select the resource. It says optional, specific. We already deleted previous one, also I'm using the same name. Now this time around, I'm not giving it full access, so you notice the difference. So what I just did now is customer inline. Can you see now? Customer inline. Now let me show you the JSON structure. Can you see now that it's just listing it? So resources still has okay, no, not this. So STS assume, so it's only assuming this particular resources, but everything under this one just for only this. So this is the only resources that is specifying for. So that's the code. I consider the code is different, but assuming I just say okay, allow 42, it's going to allow for all resources. So that's the way inline policy works. Answer. Let me delete it. The policy has been removed. Now let me check whether it created the policy under this place. Okay, so the policy is not here. So that's how you create inline policy. Then we already talked about using access key and secret access key to install and installing AWS CLI yesterday. So that's all for today. Now, if you actually want to deal with more questions, like you want to get familiar with how we use all these stuffs, let me recommend a website for you guys. Okay, this guy. Right in here, you can actually see some practice questions that will really help you a lot. It really help you a lot in understanding these topics. Lines of IAM. So what does this IAM? So you have to understand all these resources so that you can be able to develop a good architecture. So now what they said is when you use the AWS Management Console to delete an IAM user, IAM also delete any signing certificate and any access key belonging to the user. That is true. When we deleted an IAM user the other time, it automatically deletes. So that's true for this. So that's what this does. So anytime the access key you are using before, once you delete the user, everything's gone. So you can just check all these things up and you get to know more about it. So all these one are problems that practical problems that actually happened that they have solved. So they said you log in into IAM on an AWS console, and you notice the following message. Okay, yeah, no problem. I will send the link on the WhatsApp group. So they said you notice this following message: delete your root access key. Why do you think IAM is requesting this? Anybody that have access to your root access key is, I'm actually working on the I'm actually working as an IAM user. So root access, AWS does not recommend you using the root access for any work at all. So definitely you don't need your access key. It's better for you to delete it. So they say because it will expire. No, it doesn't expire. Once you create it, you have created it. Because no, it doesn't expire. No, they are not the same for users. Everybody has different access key. Because they provide unrestricted access to your AWS resources. That's what they do. So there are as many as possible now. Okay, this one says, what is the default maximum number of MFA device in use by AWS accounts at root account level? So for a root account now, you only need one. Even for all these mobile apps, they ask you that this device will be used as your primary device. So if you anytime you want to log into another device, you're going to message you that you want to change this device. So this only one. Then they say you are setting up a blog on AWS. In which of the following scenario will you need AWS credentials? So they're asking us that in which situation do we need AWS credentials? We only need it when we actually want to call on a service. That's when we need it. AWS credentials. So let's take for example now. Let's sign into the AWS Management Console. Yes, we need it to launch an AWS Amazon EC2 instance. We are launching a service here, that's EC2 instance. So we need it. That's also pick 3. So these are likely questions. Although these are simple questions, you won't see them. You won't see them. The questions you will see are combined, that you combine them with other resources. Like you want to create an S3 website and clinical stuff like that. Now, what is the best way of creating a static website? You host it on Amazon S3 combined with CloudFront. Those two, S3 and CloudFront. Anytime you want to host a static website, once they mention static, just know. But once they say dynamic or they don't mention anything static, you use EC2 instance for hosting it, because S3 and CloudFront are cost effective compared to EC2. You can also host static on EC2, but they are not cost effective. So we sign in the AWS console, then this one does not relate to any AWS service. So we launch an Amazon RDS instance. This one does not deal with anything. Then Amazon S3. So that's it. So you can actually check the remaining up for yourself. So let's take a look at this. Then it's going to create it. So that's how all these stuffs work. So let's take a look at it. So most of the time it's going to explain the reason why the answer is correct and the reason why it's not. Okay, let's take for example now. It says in AWS, an access key is required in order to sign requests that you make using the command line interface, that's CLI. Using the Amazon SDK, using the direct API calls, anyone who has the access key for your root account has unrestricted access. I said it to all the resource in your accounts, including the bill information. One of the best way to protect this is you delete them. So anytime you need this, you just generate another one. So instead, and most time, I said it, AWS recommend that we use IAM user. You see, instead, AWS best practice is to create one or more AWS identity and access management user. So that anytime anything goes wrong, maybe the person is trying to hack your accounts, you can actually log in back through your root user and remove the person. The root user is the master account. Every other user, the root user can do and undo. And you don't log in like with the same way you are logging in. You only use email and password, I think so. An MFA. So you can only have one MFA in root user. And like I said, so that's the way it works. So I will send a link to this stuff on the group. So tomorrow we'll be talking about S3. So this S3 aspect of it. But basically, anytime you hear of S3, think of it as your brain. The working system of the S3 is just designed just like the brain, just like the brain. That's the way it works. All the storage capacity, everything is just like the brain. Now, let me just do a brief intro. This will be where it starts from. Okay, so these are the storage class. This is where it actually started from. As that in terms of standard, when you talk about standard, you're talking about frequently accessed. It's just like you reading. When you're reading a book every day, the same thing. If they ask you a question inside, you can easily like tell them the answer without even thinking twice. But infrequently accessed, you might still rack your brain. Maybe you read it once in a week or twice in a week. You might still try to rack your brain and you might not really get, the response rate is slow, not instantly. You still have to rack your brain. And that's why anytime you want to write an exam, any exam, make sure you read the handouts before entering the exam hall, because it actually allows you to remember quickly. That's one thing it does. Now, one zone IA is just like, let me put it this way, you didn't read. All you did was you wanted to engage in examination malpractice. Maybe you want to carry your phone in, or you write your assignment in a sheet of paper, and peradventure the examination officer caught you and the paper was collected. It simply means what? The data has been lost. So you are left with nothing. You can't write anything again. You are blank. That's the meaning of one zone AI. So it simply means that's very cheap. So cheap in the sense that you are not stressing yourself. But standard AI, you are stressing yourself a little. It's still cheap. But when it comes to standard, you are stressing yourself every day. So it's not really cheap. And S3 Glacier, that one is like it's just like maybe you were taught about that topic a month ago, and today they don't ask you a question on it. You have to think like you might not even be able to respond immediately. But you might, at the end of the day, maybe after 2-3 hours, you might try to recall a particular incident or what they actually thought, but not exactly. So that's S3 Glacier. And deep archive. When I say deep archive, we are talking about 2-3 months. Then intelligent tiering simply means what this does is that it takes the important aspect of it. Let's take an example, you upload a picture now. And S3 knows that you don't really access this picture, but sometimes you might just need a glimpse through of it, just like the way the brain does. They might actually ask you a question and you might say, I've read it in this particular page, maybe it's also page. I know it's right in this page. We call them thumbnails. So your brain has actually captured the thumbnails of it, but it can't recall what is inside. So it has to wait for some time for him to process it. So this one, the process response rates are very slow. So this S3 standard. Data is replicated across 3 AZ, readily available. You are reading every day. Asking you any question, you can answer immediately. I've just thought in S3 have a reliability of 99.999. So we have 99 here percent. And it has milliseconds first byte latency. If they ask you a question, you can easily answer. That's the meaning of milliseconds. Object can be publicly accessible. So for you to be reading something all the time simply means you want them to have access to it. Anytime they ask you, you want to be able to respond. So you are charged per gigabyte, a gig per month, free for storage. Fee for storage, not free, fee. So you are charged per gigabyte. And you are charged per gigabyte fee for transferring out of S3. So if you are transferring in, it's free. If you want to upload, it's free. But if you are downloading, it costs fee. And you are charged a price per 1,000 requests. So anytime this one is basically for S3 web static website hosting. So each time they keep like someone maybe logging into your websites all the time after 1,000 requests, so you'll be charged. So most time it's not. That's why they use CloudFront. instead of you having the request, Platform automatically stores it. So anytime the user tries to log into the website, it returns that particular page for him instead of him calling on the S3 buckets. Okay, so I actually said I'll be just an introductory aspect. So we'll discuss this one later during the weekend. So that's just all you need to know about it. So thank you very much. So is there any question? Then the video, I actually recorded it, so I'll be sharing it. I'll be sharing the link later on in the day. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much. So let me stop the sharing. Yeah, yes, I have a question right in here. Yeah, good night. Thanks.